Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Greg Morton Outdoors. I'm Cottage, and today we're going to talk about a topic that a lot of thru hikers haven't done before in the past. And we're going to talk about the mental aspect of the Appalachian Trail. So I'm sure if you're considering an Appalachian Trail thru hike this year, you've done your research. You've looked over the gear. You've looked over the shoes, the food. You know all about the trail, the towns, the best hostels. You know all of that. But you know, a lot of people don't talk about the mental aspect of hiking this trail. And you know, honestly, it's probably 30 to 50% of your thru hike. So I've identified 5 things that really affect your mental state while on trail. And we'll talk about those and how to go about addressing them, you know, before you start your hike. And we'll talk about, you know, what happens if you have a breakdown while you're hiking. You know, how can you recover? So let's get started. So the 5 things that I believe that influence your mental state the most while on trail are the terrain, the weather, sleep, nutrition, and injuries. By terrain, I'm talking about the inclines, the declines, the actual trail itself, the boulders, the rocks, the roots. There are places where the trail isn't a trail. In New Hampshire, you know, it might be a waterfall that you have to climb down. Not lying. So things like that could be overwhelming and can force you to the point to believe that you're not capable of doing this. You know, and if you've never seen a 3,000 or 4,000 foot mountain, if you're what we folks in Colorado call Flatlanders, you know, it could be a little overwhelming when you first look at it. So what can you do before you start your hike to address that and hopefully build your confidence so it doesn't affect your mental state? Well, the simple answer is this: get out and train. You know, if you are somewhere where you might have some mountains, like me, get out there and hike them. Come on. Start going out there and tackling them. And the key thing is, when you start going up them, if you have to stop 5 times before you hit the summit, then you have to stop 5 times. You know, next time when you go out, try and only stop 4 times, and then 3. And before you know it, you're going to be going up and down that mountain without any problem whatsoever. And that whole 3,000 or 4,000 foot mountain on the Appalachian Trail isn't going to be so insurmountable. Well, you know, what if you're saying, hey, I live in Nebraska, what can I do? Honestly, still get out there and hike as much as you can. But also, try doing some other things too. Like, you know, join a gym that's got a Stairmaster. Put your pack on with your, you know, all of your equipment in there, 4 days worth of food and 2.5 liters of water, and get on that Stairmaster and hike and hike and hike. You know, you can get a membership to Planet Fitness for like $10 a month. So that's really nothing. I mean, you're not going in there, you know, prepping for your, you know, Mr. or Mrs. Olympia competition. You know, you're getting ready for your thru hike. So, yeah, $10 a month, Planet Fitness. You know, find the tallest building in your city. And you know what? Hike up and down the stairwell. Load your pack up again, go up and down the stairwell. And before you know it, you know, you'll be hitting the 11th floor without stopping, which would be fantastic. You know, there's different ways to train when you don't have those mountains available. So, but the big thing is get outside, get hiking, get training. Build that confidence so you know what you can do. Weather. Weather can be one of the biggest factors when it comes to affecting your mental state. You know, most people, they can handle being wet, they can handle being cold, but they can't handle being wet and cold. And I think this is why, like in the Army, when you're doing the survival, evasion, resistance, and escape training, one of the things your captors like to do is to keep you wet and cold while you're waiting for the interrogation side, because that will break you down. I'm telling you, miserable. One way to combat that is, and today's a great example, get outside and hike when it's not the best conditions. So you might be saying, Greg, what are you talking about? You got blue skies, beautiful sun, it's a great day. It's 28 degrees. So get outside and hike when it's cold. Get outside and hike when it's rainy. Do both. And not only that'll do two things for you. One, it will give you confidence in your gear. Also let you know if your gear fails, but it'll give you confidence in your gear. Secondly, it gives you confidence in you, knowing you've already been through something like this or something worse. It's no big deal. So, like for me, day 2 in the Smokies, day 2 and day 3 were both snowstorms. So a lot of times I was hiking in shin deep snow. Well, being out here in Colorado, I'd hiked in snowstorms and hailstorms and sleet storms and rainstorms. So I was used to it. So when you train like that, you build that confidence in your gear, in yourself, and that's a factor that hopefully you can scratch off the list of what's going to affect your mental state. So sleep is another crucial factor that will definitely deteriorate your ability to process things rationally, react rationally. Again, back to SEER school, the reason why they keep you cold and wet, not only to break you down that way, is so they deprive you of sleep. Sleep deprivation, I tell you, that's a son of a bitch, man. It is. Not only your ability to perform, but your motor functions of your body, and being able to process thoughts and things like that can definitely wear you down. So what can you do? Well, first things first, you need to test out your sleep system. You need to make sure that your pad is comfortable enough. Make sure that your sleeping bag / quilt is going to keep you warm enough. Do you need a pillow? Do you not need a pillow? All these things come into play. Make sure your sleep system works for you. Try it out while you're at home. Try getting some sleep. Don't think that because you're going to be hiking all day, when you get to your tent that night or your hammock, that you're going to crash hard. Might not happen. You might be somebody that, the noises in the woods might wake you up, might take you a little while to get, used to. So how can you combat that also? Well, You could try using things like melatonin, ashwagandha, valerian root. All these promote good, helpful, restful sleep. There's other products out there like Relaxium Sleep that have a lot of these properties mixed together, or a lot of these supplements mixed together. Might want to take a look at something like that. I do not recommend using something like Ambien, because if you don't get a full 8 hours, you're going to be groggy as shit. You might end up sleeping a lot longer than you wanted to. So even though, hiker midnight, 7 o'clock, and you're in your tent trying to sleep, you pop an Ambien, you might not get out of your tent till like 10 o'clock the next morning. So I don't recommend the Ambien, but that's a personal call. The other thing, if you're a green blazer,
hey, smoke weed every day.
If you like to smoke a little weed to relax.
We're here.
Look at getting like an indica, or you can get gummies or edibles or something like that. And only do this in the state where it's legal, all right? Don't break the law. But that's also a great sleep aid also. That is not going to cause you to be groggy the next morning. So a couple things to keep in mind, keep in your back pocket. Okay, number 4, nutrition. Nutrition can be a huge, huge thing. A lot of folks get wrapped around the axle when it comes to, pure calories. And calories are very important. You need that fuel. But, just like in everyday life, you don't throw nutrition out the window just because you're on trail. You're not some superhuman that doesn't need their B vitamins. And when you don't get those things, what happens? Your body doesn't perform at its best. You make yourself more susceptible to illnesses. And also, it affects your brain. So what can you do? The first thing I recommend is you take a multivitamin with you. I did the entire trail. The ones I had were okay. Looking back, I would have taken a time-released one where all those vitamins and minerals and everything were released into my body throughout the day. And honestly, and not because I used to work there, I think GNC has got fantastic time-release vitamins. So that would be one thing I would recommend. Second, take a look into a greens mix. There's several different companies on the market that have greens. Some of them taste like dirt. Some of them taste pretty good. Myself personally, I have Ghost Nutrition. I have their greens, and the lime and guava are really good. If I knew about those before the Appalachian Trail, I would have taken them, absolutely. But that's a good way to either replace or supplement your multivitamins. Plus, it also adds in, other nutritional things that you wouldn't find in there. And lastly, when you go into town, and man, I know it's hard. Sometimes you're at the Dollar General and your breakfast for the next 4 days are going to be, a couple of honey buns. Yeah, I got it. It's hard sometimes, but do your best. Make sure you concentrate. And I recommend doing it in this order when it comes to nutrition: protein, fats, carbohydrates. Your body needs carbohydrates to process stuff anyway. However, you're going to be tearing down your muscles, especially your leg muscles, every single day. It's going to be like you hit the gym every day. So you need that protein to rebuild those muscles. Fats, your body needs fats, but also it and protein are slow burning calories. So that's what you want on a through hike. Not only will those two things make you feel fuller, more so than carbohydrates, but they'll burn slowly, so your food will last you, versus if, you eat a handful of gummy bears and, have some corn chips, and a honey bun. You're going to burn all that crap off within like the first, hour and a half of hiking. If you take in the good proteins, it'll burn slower, and it'll give you the fuel necessary, to last you throughout the day. The other thing is, don't ignore your body. So, have you ever, had a food and it was like, something simple, say like a ham sandwich. And next thing you know, you're like, this is the best ham sandwich ever. Chances are your body was needing something. That's like when you get cravings for something. There's something in that food your body needs. I know for me, when I started carrying powdered milk for cereal in the morning, and I had cookies and milk at night, I would get that cold water coming out of a brook and mix the milk up, the powdered milk in that. And oh my God, that was so good. That was better than the cookies. But I knew the reason why I was reacting like that, because let's face it, that shit's not the best. But I was reacting like that because there was something in that powdered milk my body needed. So once I started doing that, stuck with it for the rest of the hike. A little bit of cereal and milk in the morning, and a protein bar, and after dinner at night, cookies and milk. So don't ignore your body. And speaking of not ignoring your body, this is pretty cool. There's an old barn out here. There's some old buildings out in this area along this trail. But let's talk about, number 5, and that's injuries. Now, I know injuries themselves can take you out of the through hike just like that. But, for those nagging ones, that aren't enough to end your through hike, but every day you're going to deal with pain. Now, those can be something that can definitely, affect how you're thinking about why you're out there in the first place. You might sit there and go, is this worth it? I'm waking up every day and my ankles hurt, my knees, my feet, my butt, whatever hurts, these little injuries. So what I recommend with that is, before you start your hike, know the limitations of your body. Don't try and get out there on day one and push 20 miles, unless, that's what you can do. Don't feel that you need to do certain mileage. You'll get to 20-mile days when you're ready to. Don't try and push it ahead of time. Don't risk injuring yourself by doing that, the overexertion. The other thing is, it might be self-evident, but, don't do any stupid shit. I mean, I saw people out there all the time taking unnecessary risks, jumping off of boulders instead of walking down the trails and stuff like that. It's like, homeboy, you land wrong and you're going to tear like an Achilles tendon or something, and you're finished. You're done. So don't take unnecessary risks. And, and the other thing too is, while you're on the trail, address those injuries as soon as you can. So I don't care if it's a blister or if you're starting to feel some knee pain, whatever. I would always recommend starting off at the lowest remedy possible. That being things like wraps, braces, acetaminophen, Motrin, whatever you take, and then slowly working your way up. But, like I had to do in Connecticut, I had to go to an emergency room, which turned out to be a total freaking waste of time for the most part. But, maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe, when you're in town, get in to see a doc. Maybe go see a chiropractor, get an adjustment. If the problem is your back or hips or something like that, get an adjustment done. It might be something you need to do over and over. One guy I hiked with, Honey Bun, knee issues. Basically, he'll end up getting a knee replacement. But he got a lot of cortisone shots in his knee. That's what it took. His doc said, the shots aren't going to make it worse. Because at this point, it really can't get any worse. So he just did the cortisone shots and pressed on. And you know what? About 2-3 days before me, he summited Mount Katahdin. So take care of those injuries. Hey, check back next week for part 2, where we'll discuss what to do when you hit a breaking point, tips to improve your mental state, and building resilience.